Chapter 3. Into Adulthood. John M. was part of the Marshall trap-making family, and he started work in his dad's trap shop at 139 Nechells Lane. In the early 1960s, he had to leave that job when Wednesfield Urban District Council placed a compulsory purchase order on the site and demolished both the factory and the accompanying house. It was believed that a swimming baths had been planned for the site, but it was never built, and a few years later, Wednesfield UDC was absorbed into Wolverhampton Borough Council. The site is now a car park and grassed area. John then took a job at the Yale and Town, an American company, arrived in Wadensbrook Lane around 1936, where it employed many Wednesfield people, including Les, who was a capstan operator there. Production at the site finally ended in the 1990s, at which time it was known as Eaton Yale and Town Incorporated, following a merger with another company in 1966. Another big Wednesfield employer that arrived in Wednesfield in 1936 was Brockhouse Castings of Hall Street and Well Lane. Brockhouses acquired the Wednesfield site from Dawkins Enamels and Foundry Company. During the war, Brockhouses made ship's anchors and chains. Marjorie started her working life with the company, operating the switchboard, and remembers that there was a special number that connected the firm directly to the Admiralty. To this day, she can remember the company's general telephone number, Fallings Park 736221. The old Temperance Hall, after which Hall Street was named, was amalgamated into Brockhouse's building stock as a greasing bay, amongst other uses. The hall had also been the Tivoli Theatre in its lifetime. When Sainsbury's took over the Brockhouse site, they donated the hall's original windows to Wednesfield History Society. Quite a lot of Wednesfield's 20th century industry seems to have sprung up in the 1930s. This was possibly because of the convenient juxtaposition of canal, goods railway and roads to facilitate distribution. When not at school, Alf used to go to work with his dad, who was a driver for LMS, the London Midland Scottish Railway Company. Mainly he carried out deliveries around the Wednesfield factories, but his Sunday morning job was to go to Wednesfield railway station and couple and uncouple the goods wagons from their engines. The uncoupled wagons would be loaded up by the local factories with their products, and the engine would return later to collect the wagons and start the goods on their journeys to their various destinations. 1937 saw a brand new factory erected in Nechells Lane for Jenks and Cattell. Of this factory, Ray has observed, you name it, they made it. Locally, they were best known for their quality garden tools, but some of their other products included automobile chassis brackets, brake drums, gramophone components, parts for the aircraft industry and the textile industry. Rather humorously, Kelly's Trade Directory of 1936 describes the company as stampers and piercers and bucket ear manufacturers. Ray and Ken both worked there at different times. Other large-scale employers of Wednesfield folk were C&B Smith Foundries Limited and Walsall Motor Radiator Company, both of which were on Nechells Lane. Also, Goodairs of Rookery Street, who were later incorporated into Wolverhampton Metal Company. Mander Brothers, who established a works in Well Lane in 1894 and a later premises in Heathtown in the 1920s, and Weldless Steel Tube of Wadensbrook Lane. Many companies with a base in Wednesfield have now disappeared, and the resultant loss of work has often been hard on families. Redundancies were a particularly gruelling experience. However, occasionally hope bobbed up to the surface even when redundancy hit. For example, being made redundant from British Steel in the late 1980s pushed Ray further towards his love of local history, the outcome being the Wednesfield History Society. Good result. Alf went through the redundancy process no fewer than 13 times at Marlin's, formerly Snyder's, in Wadensbrook Lane. Thankfully, he survived to fight another day on each occasion and retired age 65 in the normal way. Both Alf and Les are of an age that required them to complete a compulsory stint in the armed forces. Les joined the army and headed off to Singapore, whilst Alf joined the RAF and remained nearer home.